Are we on?
Yes.
Check, check, check. Hey guys, Shane with the Republic Gun Club here in Waco. You guys own a firearm. You might have even shot at some paper at the range. I'm going to talk about a few things that make you understand that you're not ready for a gunfight, but that's okay. U.S. Army Combat Infantry veteran here, as well as a former SWAT officer for police department here in Texas. We're going to work through some things and teach you how to make sure that you can be prepared if that test ever comes. So you bought your firearm. Hopefully you tried it so that it makes sense to you and fits you well and you enjoy shooting it. But shooting at a piece of paper at a range really doesn't prepare you for combatives. We consider that marksmanship shooting. It's good for fundamentals, but outside of that, it's pretty much useless in the real world. So what does that mean for you? Get some training. What kind of training? Here in Texas, a lot of people get their Texas license to carry. Well, I'll tell you that little piece of plastic just means you know the legal opportunities to exercise your rights in Texas, but that does not make sure you're ready for a gunfight. So here at the range, we see folks all the time running really cool John Wick style drills where they'll have a gun rig set up, super speed loader, super fast and fancy like you see on YouTube. The problem with that is that really doesn't translate to the real world. There's a reason that people carry the way they do in the real world, and there's a reason why some of that fixed setting doesn't really work. It's a dynamic environment, it's three-dimensional. Well, here at the range, it's really three-dimensional, but only one way, very controlled environment, and paper doesn't shoot back. So if you're gonna care for your protection, your family's protection, or here in Texas, the protection of a third party to prevent from serious bodily injury or death, you need to cover a few things. One is, do you know how you're gonna carry? Can you get that firearm out in a hurry? Are you aware that most shootings happen within 3 yards in under 3 seconds? So it's gonna be close, it's gonna be violent, and it's gonna be at the time you don't really expect it. So the first question to ask is, why are you carrying? If it's just for yourself, for your immediate family, that may be a different tool set up. If it's for the general public at large, like a lot of us do if we're out by ourselves, it may be a larger platform. And then is it deep concealment? Is it concealment like the guys get away with in the winter when we have hoodies and I can hide this thing very easily? Or is it something that we're a little bit more constrained based on what we're doing activities? So all of those questions have to be answered before we go through, can you get that gun out of that holster? If I was wearing inside the waistband, I may have to practice a full draw where I'm actually getting my offhand to get my shirt out of my way to fully seat my hand. Outside, it's the same, similar deal, but my hand goes against my chest, and then I can actually get that gun out and engage the target. Are we practicing shooting one hand? Are we practicing doing just what we have to do very slow? The adage in the tactical world is slow is fast, because smooth is slow, slow is fast. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but as you do it, be very deliberate in what you're practicing on. Don't try to hurry, speed comes on its own. So that's one question, that's one kind of scenario to talk about. Number two is, in a dynamic environment, I'm not standing maybe on a flat piece of concrete that's relatively clean. It may be gravel, maybe dirt, maybe wet floor, or in a transitionary period, like I'm leaving my vehicle, I'm entering my vehicle, I'm going into a building from bright sunlight to darkness, or the opposite from a dark room to outside, so our eyes need time to adjust. So all of that comes into play with why we're carrying and what tools we're gonna use to do that. Be aware of things like accessory lights, EDC, things like that. I carry a knife and a little flashlight with me every day. It's helped me more on flat tires at night than it is on a tactical deal, but it's also there for a reason. Optic settings on your guns. I'll typically run it mid brightness on my Romeo X because I don't know if I'm gonna be in the building or outside in the bright sunlight. Some products out there kind of self-adjust as they go. We won't name any specific brands because, well, it's not a sponsored video. So what are things I need to worry about if we're getting into a gunfight? Number one, you're in a gunfight. It's kind of the old Western cowboy saying goes, you win every fight you don't get into. So avoidance is key. If we have to go to a firearm in a defensive situation, it means we've already failed the class. We're trying to make a makeup exam to be able to go to the next day or continue on. That typically means a couple of things. One is get off the X. And what we mean by that is when we typically see somebody as a danger, we go to engage them. What we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on that. Well, so's the bad guy, especially if he's focused on me. Maybe my first shot was ineffective. Maybe he's got body armor on and we're trying to get his attention and let people escape. That means the last place he saw me is where he's gonna wanna be. We tend to blink as human beings when we move our head, which means we lose a lot of information as we're scanning. So as I engage, as simply as right before I engage or right after I engage, depending on the situation, all I simply am gonna do is move a big step left or right, somewhere off that line that person's oriented on. That plays catch up. If you've ever done transition skills on targets, even paper targets, you understand why that's important. It's hard for our eyes and hands to track something unless we practice it a ton of times. Another thing is going to be use cover and concealment. If you don't know the difference, concealment means, hey, you can't see me. Cover means something that's going to stop that bullet coming my way. It doesn't mean sheetrock. It doesn't mean things that can be broken by gunfire. You really want something that's going to stop it, which means a lot of earth or a lot of steel between you and them. Cars nowadays are mostly plastic and aluminum, so that's probably not the best steel unless you get behind the rotors or things like that. So be aware. My number one tip, 100% of the time, is what we talk to with all rookie cops going through training, is play the what-if game. You go to the same grocery store most of the time, probably the same church, probably the same place of worship, whatever hobbies you do, groups you're involved with. Be aware of what's around there and think through your mind, play that what-if game. What happens if somebody approaches me at the ATM? What am I going to do? That may change simply how I stand. That may change that I don't go during certain times of the day, as well as those norms of what you see. Pay attention to your gut. Again, we win 100% of the gunfights or fights we don't get involved in. And in reality, that means we failed the class again if this gun comes out. We have a lot more liability as civilians out here being armed, because if that gun comes out, in effect, that is a crime here in Texas. Check local laws where you're at in the state that you're in. But be aware of those things, because this isn't for show, in my opinion. And again, this is Shane's opinion. If this gun comes out in the holster in the rear, it means it's going to work. And it's going to be a pretty drastic thing to stop that from happening, because we've already gone through that whole assessment of what do I do? What happens if I'm not real sure, but I still want to carry? Well, 911's great, and it's always good to be a great witness. So if you know you're not effective or you're unsure when the moment happens, don't put yourself in a gunfight when it might not have been to start out with, or if you're not sure. Because every round we send down range, we own, and we own the responsibility and the consequences of those rounds. All right, so I've shown the gap that's there or called you out. So now it's time to do some work. Get some training. Training doesn't mean poking holes in targets and showing what a pretty target you have. Really focus on getting combatives in. We have a full suite of training opportunities here at Republic Gun Club. If you're not close to us, keep following what we've got going on. We may push some stuff out digitally to you. Make sure that you're doing things with a purpose. Make sure you're testing your gear, and make sure you come see us when you're ready to take it to the next level. And here's the mandatory disclaimer of like, comment, subscribe, share this video with somebody that you want to call out yourself or that thinks they need this information. You guys have a good one.